Hi everybody, thank you for joining me on my latest video, and thank you for taking the time out to watch this video and enjoy it with me. We're going to go way back on this video. We're going to go back to 1973, which is 50 years ago now, isn't it? And we're going to see what the Beatles were up to, how there's, the Beatles or the solo performers. 1973 was quite a good year for Beatles fans because we had two Beatles albums that year, which were both double albums. We had two albums from Paul McCartney and Wings. We had an album from George, an album from Ringo, and an album from John. So it was actually quite spoiled. It's hard to think that, these albums are now 50 years old. So we're going to look at a few of them. I'm just going to put my glasses on, so you'll have to excuse me while I put my granddad glasses on. I hate wearing these bloody things, but, say 50 years old, and I was 6 in 1973. So giving me age away now, aren't I? Right, the first one was the Beatles, and this was released in about April, I think, of 1973. 1962 to 1966, double album on Apple. PCSP 717. You know all the songs that are on here, so I'm not going to go into it. Original ones did come with the gatefold sleeve. In fact, we will show them. We'll have a quick look at them. I mean, this is in really nice condition. Came with a gatefold sleeve. I don't know if this is the came with a gatefold sleeve and had a very small production credit for George Martin. You also got the lyric sheets for this on the insides. So the songs were Love Me Do, Please Please Me, From Me to You, She Loves You, I Want to Hold Your Hand, All My Love and Can't Buy Me Love. That's side one. Side two, you get Hard Days Night and I Love Her, 8 Days a Week, I Feel Fine, Ticket to Riding Yesterday. Side three, Help, You've Got to Hide Your Love Away, We Can Work It Out, Day Tripper, Drive My Car, Norwegian Wood. Side 4, Nowhere Man, Michelle, In My Life, Girl, Paperback Writer, Eleanor Rigby and Yellow Submarine. And obviously that back photo is taken 6 years after that one. Love, as compilations go, they were, ideal for the time. The only downside I have with this one, and it's, I'm not trying to knock it because I think these are brilliant. These and the Blue album are brilliant compilation albums. The only thing is they seem to have overlooked Revolve on that. I think they could have had a couple of. Yeah, I know Yellow Submarine and Eleanor Rigby were on Revolver, but I think they could have put Dr. Robert on it, or Tomorrow Never Knows, or something like that as well, or Good Day Sunshine, or 4No1. There's quite a few tracks that would have fitted nice on that. Then we had the accompanying LP, 1967 to 1970, otherwise known as the Blue Album. That other one is known as the Red Album, obviously. Some people say they pick these colours because some of the Beatles were Liverpool fans and some of the Beatles were Everton fans, but I'm not quite sure if that's true or not. Again, the gatefold in the middle is exactly the same as the Blue. This is PCSP 718. In 1978, you did get these were reissued on coloured vinyl. So the blue one was released on blue vinyl, obviously, and the red one was released on red vinyl. Some of these you don't get a production credit at all. This one has got a production credit for George Martin and Phil Spector. Some wicked tracks on here. You've got Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, With a Little Help from My Friends, Loose in the Sky with Diamonds, A Day in the Life, All You Need Is Love, Side 2, I Am the Walrus, Cuckoo Choo, Hello Goodbye, Fall on the Hill, Magical Mystery Tour, Lady Madonna, Hey Jude, Revolution, Side 3, Back in the USSR, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Obladi Oblada, Get Back, Don't Let Me Down, The Ballad of John and Yoko, Old Brown Shoe, Side 4, Here Comes the Sun, Come Together, Something, Octopus's Garden, Let It Be, Across the Universe, and The Long and Winding Road. Absolutely fantastic tracks. Like I say, if you've got this and the Blue album, you know, you've got a really, really nice couple of compilations, basically. I will just show you one of them, because they're all the same, these. Again, this is in really, really nice condition, to be honest. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but I've been told by certain people that although all the tracks on this are the same tracks, whether you live in the UK, in Canada, in America, in Germany, wherever, they are the same song listings, but the slightly different mixes. So if you live in America, you'll get the ones that were singles or whatever will be the mix you got as that single, and not necessarily the UK mix. But if I'm wrong on that, please forgive me. Next up, we've got George Harrison. His release of 1973 was Living in the Material World, which technically was the follow-up to All Things Must Pass. Now, if you think All Things Must Pass came out in 1970, this didn't come out till 1973. But George hasn't been sat at home twiddling his thumbs and wondering what to do. He's also done the concert for Bangladesh, hasn't he? And, you know, and there was a film and a record box set of that. So it's not like he hadn't done anything. A bit of a overlooked album by George, this is, I think. It's, I wouldn't say it's on par with All Things Must Pass. It is a lot weaker than that album in some ways, but in some ways it's a stronger album because it's only one disc and not three. He's got lots of famous people help him out on here. You've got Ringo, you've got Gary Wright, Nicky Hopkins, Klaus Voormann, Jim Keltner, Jim Horn. You know, so he's backed by some of the top musicians of the time. Side one kicks off with Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth, which was a big hit around the world. Then you've got Sue Me, Sue You Blues. Now, you have got to listen to that because at the time, 1973, I think the Beatles were still sort of like suing and counter-suing each other. All to do with Apple and Alan Klein and royalties and things like that, wasn't it? Then The Light That Has Lightened the World. Again, slightly religious sort of song, spiritual song. It's okay. It's okay. Don't Let Me Wait Too Long, Who Can See It, and Living in the Material World. So outside one, off side one, shall we say, Give Me Love, Sue Me, Sue You Blues, and Living in the Material World are the highlights for me. Side two, The Lord Loves the One That Loves the Lord, which sounds like that could have actually been on All Things Must Pass. Be Here Now, not the Oasis song of the same name, obviously. Try Some, Buy Some. I think he gave that to Ronnie Spector, didn't he? And she did record it for Apple, but I don't think it was a hit. It is actually quite a good song. The Day the World Gets Round, and That Is All. Again, you know, it's very overlooked by a lot of Beatles fans, this album. It's not as bad as what people make it out to be. The good songs on it are really, really good, and the not so good songs on it are not so good, if that makes sense. You did get some goodies with this as well, to be honest. UK originals came in a gold in a sleeve. Also had a little pamphlet with it. Hare Krishna and all that lot, you know. You also got the words with it to all the songs. And George had quite a sense of humour. Living in the Material World, so in 1 minute is like saying, you know, don't you shouldn't look up to rock stars and you shouldn't be thinking of money and this, that and the other. But then if you look at that photo there, that's George, right, with all his famous friends and everything, and right at the back there is a great big limo, Mercedes limousine. You know, so you know, they always say George was the quiet one. Well, he might not always have said things, but if you look into some of his albums and things like that, they're sort of like in jokes. Cracking little album though, to be honest. It is well, if you haven't got it, and you've read reviews and people have been slagging it off, just stream some of the songs. Try some, buy some, Sue Me Blues, things like that. You know, Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth. You know, that is a cracking song, and it did deserve to be a worldwide hit, as it was, and that song would have fitted perfectly onto any Beatles album, I think. So you got George there with, you know, many of his famous friends. Ringo went one better, didn't he, in 1973? And he released Ringo, and that's simply what it's called, Ringo. This is a UK version, again on Apple. All of these are on Apple. A lot of them have got the custom labels and things, but they are on Apple. 1970, Ringo released 2 solo albums. He did Sentimental Journey, which was like old standards, and then he did a country and western album, Bouquets of Blue, which flopped in the UK, and I don't think it did that good in America, but it is actually quite a good album. I don't like country and western music, I will admit. I'm not that keen on it, but I can listen to that album. Then he released the singles. Well, Bouquets of Blue was released as a single in America, but wasn't in the UK. He released It Don't Come Easy as his debut single in the UK in 71, and Back Off Boogaloo in 1972. Then this came in 1973. And on here, he's got some really, really, really famous friends helping him out on here, i.e. George Harrison, John Lennon and Paul McCartney, among others. Also on this album is Billy Preston, Klaas Voormann. What else have we got? Mark Bolan, Harry Nilsson, trying to think of somebody else. Linda McCartney's even on this. So yeah, I mean, that is quite reminiscent, or a bit of like a Mickey take of Sergeant Pepper, I think. UK originals came in a gatefold sleeve as well. And you did get a book. Sometimes the book is stapled in the centre, but 9 times out of 10, the book falls out, because it is quite a heavy booklet. And it's basically drawings from Klaas Voormann, who's done drawings for all of the songs. So that's his drawing for I'm the Greatest. I want to get the words at the side. When I was a little boy, way back home in Liverpool, all my friends told me I was great. Some fantastic songs on this, by the way. You like that one there, I'm the Greatest, was written for and by John Lennon. Fantastic song, and you can tell it is about, it's not John writing about himself, it's John writing about Ringo. Then you've got Have You Seen My Baby? That was written by Randy Newman. Photograph, written by Ringo and George. Lovely song. It's got quite a different meaning to me now since my dad passed away, that song. When I listen to that, I always get a tear in my eye. Then you've got Sunshine Life for Me, Sail Away Raymond, written for and by George. You're 16, You're Beautiful and You're Mine. That was a big hit for him, wasn't it? Oh My My. Oh my my, oh my my, can you boogie, can you cry? Step Lightly, which was written just by Ringo, or on here as it says, Richard Starkey. Step lightly, you're moving too fast. 6 o'clock, Paul McCartney. Technically it was written by Paul and Linda McCartney. Again, that is actually quite a nice song. Devil Woman, that's one of the outstanding songs on here. Really, really good rocking song from Ringo. Every time I see you walking down the street, I say you're the kind of woman I just gotta meet. And then it ends off with You and Me, Babe, which is actually written by George Harrison and Mal Evans. fantastic song, lovely pictures. The UK label is slightly different to the American label. Same in design, it's just in the UK all the wording is in green, where in America all that wording on the label is in blue. Great sounding record. In some ways, this is going to sound daft, in some ways I think it's overrated, this album, but it's not really overrated, because when you think of the people that are on it and how good the songs are and how good the production is. And this album was produced by Richard Perry, by the way, who went on to produce people like Leo Sayer and things like that, didn't he? And when you think of the people that are on it and the time it came out, the construction with the booklet and everything, I think it was slightly ahead of his time. It is probably Ringo's most famous album, sort of thing, but that doesn't mean to say the albums that came before this or the albums that came after it were any better or any worse than this. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a cracking album, don't get me wrong, it's a lovely album. This is one of them albums where you put it on track one, side one, and you will sit and listen to it all the way through till the end track on side two, although you've got to go up to switch it over, obviously. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. Like I say, a brilliant album. I think this was one of his biggest sellers as well. When you think of all the albums that Ringo has actually released since the Beatles, a lot of them didn't even chart in the UK. I think this got into the UK top 10, if I remember rightly. Cracking album. Like I say, technically it could be classed as a Beatles reunion because all of the Beatles are on that album, but not all together. The closest they got was I Am the Greatest, isn't it, where you've got John Lennon, you've got Ringo, you've got George Harrison, you've got Klaus Voormann, and you've got Billy Preston. So the only Beatle that's missing on that is Paul, isn't it? So that really, I Am the Greatest is like the closest they ever got to Beatles reunion, I'd say. Until they did Free as a Bird and things like that. Excuse me, many years later. Now we get on to John's effort for 1973. I don't mean effort as in effort, I mean John's record or his presentation for 1973, which was Mind Games again. This is a very overlooked album in a lot of ways. It came after the disappointment of Some Time in New York City. You know, so you'd had that, and then before that you'd had Imagine, that everybody was like shouting about. And this is very similar. It's in a similar vein to Imagine. It's John getting back to his best, not being political or anything like that, just writing songs, and there are great songs on it as well. Nice Sleeve. Of course, by the time this was released, you know, Yoko and Image separated, aren't they? Was re-released in 1981 on the MFP label with a different cover altogether. UK originals of this, or PCS 7165. Ringo's was PCTC 252. Yeah, originals of this do come with a inner sleeve, which has the words to all the songs. And it's not very often you'll get these, or if you do, they're ripped and things like that. So it's Mind Games, Tight As, Assume I'm Sorry, One Day at a Time, lovely song. Bring Out the Lucy, Free the People, yeah. Do it now. Which is the only one that could be sort of like classed as a political song, but I think it's more of just John being a rocker, basically. Mind Games was a hit. Tight As is good. Side 2, you've got Intuition, which is an okay song. Nothing that would blow your mind like that, but it is a nice song. It's not a rubbish song, it's a nice song. Then you've got Out of the Blue. Out of the blue you came to me, and blew away my misery. Fantastic song. Only People. I Know, You Are Here, Meet City. Like I say, very, very underrated and overlooked album in a lot of ways. Which is strange when you think how highly regarded my Imagine is. And this is like Imagine Part 2, I think. And this is the only album from 1973 by any member of the Beatles that came in the UK with the standard Apple Record label. And it's like, you know, the album after this was Walls and Bridges, wasn't it? Which is, again, a very highly rated album. And this is, song for song, this is as good as that album. And I think John once said, didn't he, says, Mind Games is Imagine with Balls. Which, in some ways, it is. Cracking album. Another one of my favourite John Lennon albums, to be honest. So we've done the Beatles, we've done George Harrison, we've done Ringo, and we've done John. Is that it? Is that it for 1973? Oh no, there's Paul, isn't there? And we've got 2 albums off Paul. Bearing in mind, Paul hadn't released an album since 1971. Wildlife, in 1971. But he did release 2 albums in 71 because he did Ram and Wildlife. One was a solo, or Paul and Lyndon, the other one was Wings. This is still Wings. And this was his first outing, or first album release of 1973, Redbow Speedway. Again, very, very overlooked album, very, very underrated. It's hard to say why, because to be honest, it is a fantastic little LP. Some cracking songs on it. You've got Big Barn Bed, My Love, which was a worldwide hit, wasn't it? Get on the Right Thing, One More Kiss, Little Lamb Dragonfly. That is absolutely amazing song, really is. Single Pigeon, When the Night, Loop, First Indian on the Moon. Then you've got a medley of Hold Me Tight, Lazy Dynamite, Hands of Love, and Power Cut. And Hold Me Tight is not the Beatles song of the same name. You got all these little like things on the gatefold. You got the book stuck in the middle, which again, a lot of the times you won't get them with the book still inside like that, because it's very flimsy, and a lot of the times it just comes out. It's basically just telling you who played what. It's not the lyrics, it's just saying who played on each track. And I think this was the last album to feature Denny Sandwell and Henry McGuff. Because I think by the time the next album came on, which we will be looking at in a bit, they'd left. Seaside Woman here. If you're easily offended, look away now. You can look again now. Yes, he probably wouldn't be able to get away with putting something like that in it now, would he? But it was just Paul being Paul, wasn't it? Well, you do get some of the words on the back as well, but in very, very, very small writing. Lovely album, like I say, very overlooked, very underrated. There's some really, really nice Paul McCartney songs on here. I mean, as Paul McCartney as a writer and as a producer and as a singer and as a member of a band. So this is PCTC 251, an Apple record, an EMI recording, the Gramophone Co Limited, manufactured in the UK. God, there's a lot of things on that, isn't there? A lot of these were reissued with the same label, but it doesn't say an Apple record on it, just there. So if you want to have the original UK version, it's got to say an Apple record there. Again, a custom label. Lovely sounding record, actually. This is actually a very, very well produced LP, and it is a very, very well played album by the band, and I mean, you know, musicianship and everything is spot on this album. It's a shame this is very, very overlooked, and I do understand why, because of what followed it. And up here, there's a thing there that's in Braille, and I think it says "Thank you, Stevie" or something for Stevie Wonder in Braille. I think. Again, on the later issues, that's not on it. So yeah, it's a bit like a forgotten masterpiece. If he hadn't have released another album in 1973, I think this LP would be held in much higher esteem and regard than it is nowadays. It has sort of like got a little bit of a cult following now. They did do a 2 LP slightly remixed version of this, because this was originally going to be a double LP, which came in just a white cover, which I've got. Again, that is actually brilliant, and if you see how that would have been a double LP, that would have made this album even better. So we'll finish off with 1973 with, can you guess what it is yet? Band on the Run. This is what I'm saying, this, because this was a huge worldwide hit, this LP, that is why Red Rose Speedway is very, very overlooked. I think Paul would have been better leaving this and releasing this in the summer of 1974. That's just my personal opinion. Then that would have given Red Rose Speedway time to like be enjoyed as it should have been. Bearing in mind, between that and this coming out, there was also a couple of singles released that weren't on that and weren't on this. So, you know, I think he might have been better saving this and releasing it, like I say, in 1974. But he didn't, and it, but, you know, in hindsight, he probably did do the best thing, because, you know, this is probably one of Paul's, it's definitely Wings' most famous album, isn't it? But again, by the time this album came out, 2 of the members of Wings had gone. So this is just Paul, Linda and Denny Lane, you know, multi-tracking and things like that. It is a cracking album, don't get me wrong. I mean, I do actually love this album. I just think that because of the success of this, Red Rose Speedway is very, very overlooked. PAS 1007. So on here you get Band on the Run, Jet, Bluebird, Mrs. Vanderbilt, Let Me Roll It, which is a cracking song. He actually does a good version of that live on the Wings Over America album. I mean, it's brilliant. It is brilliant on this LP as well, don't get me wrong. Side 2 got Manumana, No Words, Picasso's Last Words, Drink to Me, and 1985. No one ever left alive in 1985 will ever know. And again, UK originals with everything that you should get are few and far between. You can pick the albums up dead easy. Firstly, it should come in the inner sleeve, which is like this. Usually they are ripped to hell, and then you'll get the words to all the songs on the B side of it. Again, a custom label, but it is Apple, and it will say Apple Records just there, look. Later copies don't have that. They look identical, but they don't have the Apple on it. Cracking the album, really. It's. I always think this and Ram, this is going to be controversial. If that would have been a double album and these would have been recorded at the same time, this and Ram would have made a great double LP. But that's just my opinion. What do I know? I'm just a Beatles fan, aren't I? You know, Paul obviously did things for reasons. Whether he released this to try and get out of his contract with EMI early, I don't know. So like I say, there's some cracking songs on this as well. There's some cracking vocals on this as well. Again, the production, I think, is good. And it was a worldwide hit, so there's nothing really more to add on that one, is there? But there is, because you've also got, you should also get a one-sided poster for this. And these are hardly ever in them because people obviously stuck them on the walls and things like that, didn't they? And they are never ever, or very very rarely, intact like that. So that is the one to look out for. Make sure that it has got the poster and the inner sleeve. The values on these aren't that much, to be honest. I mean, Band on the Run sold in its millions, didn't it? You know, sold in its hundreds of millions around the world. But to get one with the inner sleeve and the poster intact it's not impossible, but it is hard. You know, like I say, that is a UK first pressing. Band on the Run, you can pick it up off certain internet sites for £5 upwards. Probably won't be a very good copy, don't get me wrong, but you can pick them up pretty cheap. You know, it's, if you want the one with the poster and everything in it, you probably will be paying a little bit more, and if you want one in nice condition, you're going to be paying it a little bit more. But it's never going to be like a £50 or £60 album. I think you know, if it's a nice condition and you've got the poster and you've got the inner sleeve with it, you probably pick it up for around £20 mark. The Ringo album, depending on what sites you go on, that goes anywhere from about £3 up to about 30 quid. Although I don't think anybody's ever sold one for 30 quid. They might have done, I don't know. Red Rose Speedway is pretty, I wouldn't say common, but it's not one of the most expensive albums you'll ever buy. You know, it's what it is, unfortunately. A forgotten gem. But I do think Red Rose Speedway might have its day one day. Living in the Material World, George's album, again, usually go anywhere between £5 and £15. But again, make sure it's got the little pamphlet with it and the gold inner sleeve. Remember that in joke with that one. And this for 67 to 70 and 62 to 66 on eBay, Discogs and places like that. They can go anywhere from £5 upwards. If you want a nice decent copy, and I mean decent copy, I mean these are originals, and these have hardly ever been played. You know, there's very very minimal wear on the covers and everything, and they do have the lyric sheets with them. The German ones don't have the lyric sheets, by the way. If you get a German copy and it's just in white sleeves, that is how it came in Germany apparently. So again, lovely albums, on average around £20 each. Something a little bit, you know, in near mint condition like these, you're probably going to be talking maybe 30 each. But you know, these are worth having, because it is basically the best of the Beatles. So yes, so in 1973, all those hundreds of years ago, it's not hundreds of years ago, is it? Which is, you know, going to be 50 years this year. We were spoilt, weren't we? Or if you was a Beatles fan at the time, you're spoilt, should I say? Because I was only like 6 in 1973. You know, I can remember Band on the Run and stuff like that being on the radio, and even Mind Games being on the radio, but I can't ever remember seeing the records. But then again, I didn't really go into record shops unless it was like Woolworths, because the records stall in the Woolworths where I used to live when I was growing up, the sweet counter was right next to it as well, the pick and mix thing. So yeah, so we were spoiled, weren't we, in 1973. What we're going to get in 2023? Is Paul going to be releasing a new album? Don't know. Are we going to get an album off Ringo? which would be nice. I did hear a rumour, I don't know how true it is, that these 3 EPs he's made over the past few years, he's actually released that as an album. Do you think that'd work or not? I don't know. I don't know because I haven't got them. So I have heard some of the tracks off it, don't get me wrong, or off them, should I say. But then if you've gone out and bought the EPs and he releases it as an album, would you feel cheated? I don't know. I don't suppose it's any different to the Beatles releasing 62 to 66 and 67 to 70, is it? If you think about it. It depends how much it's going to be though, doesn't it? Things like that. Are we going to get anything from George? Don't know. See, this is probably one that could do with a box set. I think that could do with a box set, but I don't know how many songs and everything and how many takes of each song there is. But I think that is crying out for something to be done with it. Cracking album, very, very underrated. Like I've said, there's good songs on it and there's not so good songs. There's not a bad song on it, don't get me wrong. It's just what it is. It's what George released at the time. His voice is good on it as well, and the instrumentation, everything is absolutely cracking on it. Again, a bit of a forgotten masterpiece, I think. I think that is George's forgotten masterpiece in a lot of ways, because people go, oh yeah, you know, all things must pass, and then they basically write everything else off, don't they, up to Cloud 9, which is a shame, because there was, you know, in that time he did do some really, really nice albums. Yeah, some are better than others, don't get me wrong, but that one is one of his better ones, and I do think it should be appreciated more than what it is. Red Rose Speedway is crying out for a box set more than Band on the Run, I think, because originally, like I say, that was going to be released in 1972 and it was going to be a double LP, and yes, I have got it, but Seaside Woman and things like that was supposed to be on it, and you know, I think it deserves something. I do think Red Rose Speedway does deserve some sort of recognition. But I think if Paul's going to do a box set of either that or Band on the Run, it to be Band on the Run, because that's the one that would make more money, and from a commercial point of view, it would make more sense, I suppose. But that's just my feelings, or you know, what I think. You don't have to agree with what I've said. Every one of them albums is a good album, and like I say, we were spoiled in 1973. We don't know what's coming in 2023. With their rumours that there's going to be a Rubber Soul box set. That's the rumour going around. My personal thoughts are there will be something for the Please Please Me LP, whether it's a limited edition on gold vinyl, or you know, perhaps they'll do a limited edition of the black and gold label on mono or something like that. I don't, but I do think that there will be something for Please Please Me to mark the 60th anniversary of that album. And if EMI and the Beatles don't, I think they've lost a really, really good marketing tool, to be honest. Because then if they start to go on the 60th, then all these box sets will still go in order, won't they? But then that would mean you'd have to wait. The last one would be Rubber Soul, but you don't have to wait 2 years for it. So to me that makes sense, but what do I know? I just go out and buy the bloody things, don't I? Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope I haven't gone on too long. If you've stuck to the end, thank you very much, and please just give me a like. If nothing else, just give me a like for this video. If you're not a subscriber and you've come across this channel and you like it, just subscribe. It is free. Like I say, leave me likes, because that helps grow the channel and it keeps YouTube happy and things like that. And you have been spoilt today because you've had 2 videos, or you will have had 2 videos today. Yes, I know this one's gone on a bit, but I thought we'd just go back in the little TARDIS, as my mate Doctor would say, and go back and revisit 1973 and see what the Beatles, or the solo Beatles, or Apple, or EMI, or whatever, treated us to that year. 50 years ago today, Sergeant Pepper didn't taught the band to play, did he? Because it already happened by then. But never mind. Anyway, that's going to be it. So once again, thank you to everybody that is supporting me, my channel. And like I say, if you've liked this video, you know, even if you don't want to subscribe, just leave me a thumbs up, because it does all help. Beatle Dave loves you all. And just remember, I've said this on a couple of videos now, you lot out there, my supporters and subscribers, and you know, likers and like that, are the beat in Beatle Dave. So until the next time, I love you all. Cheers, stay safe, be happy, and I'll see you very, very soon. Ta-da for now.